So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, today's current affairs lecture is not going to be that long because not many news items were there in today's newspapers that are relevant from the perspective of UPSC examination. Okay, today's newspapers were fairly empty if you are looking at those newspapers from the eyes of a UPSC aspirant. For others, newspapers were full, but for us, well, newspapers were not that relevant. Yet, I have extracted 3 topics that are of relevance for UPSC examination. So, despite the fact that today's lecture is going to be short and crisp, that doesn't mean that whatever we are going to discuss today is irrelevant. It's still relevant. And therefore, it is important for you to memorize these current affairs, solidify them in your memory. And you can do that, I repeat this every time, by revising these notes, which are shared on our Telegram channel. Lecture notes are shared on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Alright then, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 17th of September, Wednesday, and here is the topics list. So number 1 topic is IRDAI, the regulator for insurance sector, gets more powers under the new law. And we have discussed this new law in the previous or previous to previous lecture, right? So this new law has given more teeth, more powers to Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. So we'll discuss IRDA and the extra powers that this organization is getting. Okay. Then topic number 2 is related to India-Ethiopia Relations. Well, after Jordan, Prime Minister Modi visited Ethiopia. So it is important for us to know the bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and Ethiopia's map, because location-based MCQs are asked in your prelims exam. Okay, so we need to be aware of the countries that have dominated the news. So we'll discuss Ethiopia. Topic number 3 is it is also related to previous news. We talked about reducing merchandise trade deficit of India, and that trade deficit got reduced because of increase in exports. So what are the reasons behind this increase in exports? We'll talk about this. Okay. So these are the 3 topics that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, and that is IRDAI gets more powers. Okay. Now, you all know that a new law has come in which has further liberalized the insurance sector. The idea is, and we have discussed this, that government wants to achieve the aim of insurance for all by 2047, when India will become Vikasit Bharat, right? That's the vision, at least. So India wants to increase the access of insurance to all. Okay. Now for that, government made various changes, increasing the FDI cap, reducing the entry barriers, and many things. But along with that, government through this law gave more powers to IRDAI. Now what is IRDAI? So IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, is the regulator for insurance sector. Like for the banking sector, we have RBI, Reserve Bank of India. For share market, stock market, capital markets, we have SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. Similarly, for insurance sector, we have a regulator, that is IRDAI. Now, there was a long complaint. It was long overdue that IRDA needs more powers to do effective regulation of the sector. And this demand has been accepted in this new law. Okay. So first we'll talk about what IRDAI is, and then we'll talk about the extra powers that it has got. Okay, and some people have criticized this delivery of extra powers. Okay, so we'll talk about those arguments also, the critical arguments. Clear? So let's talk about this topic in detail. So IRDA gets more powers through this bill. Okay, so yeah, what is in the news? IRDA gains enhanced enforcement powers through Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha Amendment of Insurance Laws Bill. We have discussed this bill, right? Targeting violations by insurers and intermediaries. So insurers are these insurance companies, and then there are insurance agents or online apps that sell insurance products from different companies. These are called intermediaries. You should remember this. So for example, Max Life Insurance is the insurer, and various insurance agents or policybazaar.com, the online website that sells Max Life Insurance products, these are intermediaries. Now, IRDAI can take strict action against these people. IRDAI has been given more powers. These changes aim to protect policyholders, us who take insurance. curb mis-selling, okay, fraudulent insurance, and ensures regulatory oversight in India's insurance sector. Okay, now first let's talk about IRDAI. Remember, mostly financial authorities of India have their headquarters in Mumbai. RBI's headquarters are in Mumbai. Okay, SEBI's headquarters are in Mumbai. But remember this, IRDAI's headquarters are in Hyderabad. Just remember this fact because it's confusing. Okay, everyone generally by default thinks that IRDA would also have its headquarters in Mumbai. But no, remember this, it's Hyderabad. Now, IRDA, India's statutory, that means it was established under a law of parliament. Insurance regulator responsible for regulation, development, and policyholder protection. Protection of people who take insurance, okay, in the insurance sector. Now, what does it cover? It regulates insurance, reinsurance companies, insurance intermediaries, that means agents and tech companies in India. Now, IRDA has a chairperson and up to 5 whole-time members and 4 part-time members, and all of them are appointed by central government. Central government has the final say in the appointments, like RBI and SEBI. Okay, members are chosen from fields such as insurance, finance, law, economics, administration, various other things. Now, what extra powers have been given to this organization? Okay, the bill empowers IRDAI chairperson to authorize search warrant, seizure, inspection by senior officers if entities fail to produce documents, withhold information, or tamper with records. So these insurance companies and these insurance agents, if they are found in violation of anything, well, this can be ordered. Search, inspection, everything, in their premises also, in their offices also. Officers can enter premises, break locks if needed, seize books, accounts, vouchers, survey reports, and deploy staff for scrutiny of returns, much like ED now, Enforcement Directorate, or CBI. Amendments apply to insurance intermediaries, agents, web aggregators like paisabazaar.com or Policy Bazaar, third-party administrator, those who provide, again, agents only, surveyors, okay, insurance marketing companies, everyone is covered under this. This search and inspection can be done on anyone. IRDA can issue binding directions in public interest for policyholder protection to prevent mismanagement. Basically, the idea is to protect people like us who take insurance from fraudulent insurance products. Okay, these measures strengthen supervisory scope of insurance submissions and promote sound governance. Clear? Now, some people are criticizing it, though everyone is almost saying that IRDA did need more powers. But some people are criticizing this extra award of powers to IRDA. Now, what are their arguments? Okay, let's talk about this criticism. So, IRDA has been given extra powers, but IRDA can also misuse these extra powers. There should be an oversight on IRDA itself. IRDA will check insurance companies, but there needs to be someone to check IRDA also. Well, in this law, no parliamentary oversight has been given. Parliament should be given the authority to keep a check on IRDA. This is not given. Okay. Plus, now IRDA has been given some extra powers. Now, with great powers come great responsibilities. Okay. Now, with these extra powers, our IRDA's responsibilities increase. But IRDAI suffers from staff shortages, technology shortages. This is a problem. Then, federalism issue. Pushed without sufficient state consultation. IRDA can basically, state government's input should also be taken before ordering or giving these extra powers. Federalism issue. And rushed process. These amendments were brought in very quickly without adequate discussion. So opposition party members are saying you should have discussed these provisions of the bill in detail before passing them. So this is a valid criticism, okay, because parliamentary procedures should be followed thoroughly, which is not the case in this particular bill. It was introduced, brief discussion was done, and it was passed because government has majority in Lok Sabha. Okay, so these are some critical points. All right, now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is India-Ethiopia Relations. So Prime Minister Modi is on his three-nation tour, okay, one in Jordan, next in Ethiopia. So he went to Jordan and Crown Prince of Jordan drove him to his hotel. He drove himself. Similar thing happened in Ethiopia. So when PM Modi arrived in Ethiopia, well, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, well, drove him from the airport to his hotel himself. So these are some nice pictures, actually. Diplomatically, it's very good. That shows how warm the relationship is between the two countries. Now, what is important for us? Well, first of all, we need to know what kind of bilateral relationship the two countries share. How important Ethiopia is to India? How important is India to Ethiopia? What are the dimensions of their bilateral relationship? We need to know this. But more importantly, especially for prelims, whichever country or region dominates the news, well, a location-based, map-based MCQ is asked regarding that country or region in prelims examination. Therefore, we will study, in brief, the map of Ethiopia or Eastern Africa where Ethiopia lies. Okay? So let's quickly talk about these things. So India-Ethiopia relations. So what was in the news? India and Ethiopia elevated bilateral ties to strategic partnership. So it was this time that now India and Ethiopia have announced that they are strategic partners. Okay? Hosted by PM Abiy Ahmed Ali, emphasizing global south. Ethiopia is developing country, India is developing country, and developing countries are collectively known as global south. Developed countries are known as north. So this is south-south cooperation. Plus India and Ethiopia have historical ties also that go back as 2000 years. Okay? So let's talk about these ties. So if we talk about historical ties, relations date back thousands of years because many Ethiopian traders used to cross the Arabian Sea and reach Indian shores for trade. And same went for India as well. Okay? India-Africa trade. Well, the gateway to India-Africa trade went through Ethiopia. So it is important from that perspective. Then culture sharing was there, diplomacy was there. Plus in modern times, India supported Ethiopia's decolonization, independence, and relations have been warm since then. Okay, so this is historical. Now, when PM Modi arrived, we not just elevated our partnership to strategic partnership. Well, Ethiopia also gave its highest civilian honor. Like in India, it's Bharat Ratna. In Ethiopia, it is Great Honor Nishan of Ethiopia. That was bestowed upon PM Modi. So that shows the warmth between the two countries. Modi announced doubled scholarships for students, AI programs, and digital public infrastructure like UPI sharing. 3 MOUs were signed with respect to UN peacekeeping training, training of UN peacekeeping force, customs cooperation for better trade, and data infrastructure. Okay, they also need data centers. The entire world needs data centers now that AI has come into the picture. India signed debt restructuring MOU under G20 framework. So a lot of debt has been given to Ethiopia that will be restructured. Agri-tech transfer, health security, food security, all these events, all these areas were talked on. Or conversations regarding these areas where cooperation can be done, well, they were discussed. Okay. Now, more importantly, this is Ethiopia's map. So this particular region of Africa is known as Horn of Africa. So remember this, Horn of Africa lies on Eastern Africa. Okay. So Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, these are Eastern African countries. And this is Horn of Africa. So Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea and Djibouti, they lie on Horn of Africa. One more thing. It appears that Ethiopia has a coastline, but no. As you can see, Ethiopia is landlocked. Okay? And it shares its land border with many countries like Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, Eritrea and Djibouti. So remember these countries as well. Okay? All right. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is reasons behind India's export surge. So we all know, we discussed this yesterday, that India's trade deficit narrowed. Now what is trade deficit? Well, the difference between imports and exports. Okay? If your imports are higher than your exports, then this gap is called trade deficit. If your exports are higher than imports, like in China, then this is known as trade surplus. We all know about this. Now, India always runs a trade deficit. Now, for so many months, India's trade deficit was very high. But in the month of November, this trade deficit narrowed. Okay? Now, this trade deficit narrowed because exports increased and imports slowed down. Okay? So, the main reason behind narrowing trade deficit was export growth. Now, what is the reason behind export growth? Because these exports have risen despite Donald Trump's tariffs. So what are the reasons behind this export growth? This is the focus of our discussion. So let's quickly talk about this, okay? So, reasons behind India's export surge. So what was in the news? India's exports to US surged 22%, marking a strong recovery after declines in September-October, despite 50% US tariffs. This growth extended to markets like China. To China, our exports grew by 90%, Hong Kong, European nations, Germany, Spain, Belgium. So our exports have increased, including in US, which has applied tariffs on us. Okay. Now, what are the major reasons behind this? Okay. The biggest reason is that Indian exporters anticipated Donald Trump's tariffs. They anticipated that beforehand. Now, why are tariffs harmful? Because if USA applies tariffs on Indian products, then Indian products become expensive in US markets. So nobody buys them, so exports decline. That's the main idea behind this, okay? But what did Indian traders do? They already lowered their cost. So when on top of that American tariffs were applied, the final price remained the same as it was before tariffs were applied. Because Indian exporters already lowered the cost. So they took those tariffs upon themselves. They paid from their own pocket rather than passing them on to American consumers. Okay? So cost absorption. Indian firms bore US tariffs hoping for deal. And they thought, Indian exporters thought that USA will quickly remove those tariffs because India and USA have good relationship. Little did they know. Then, already their exports were suffering. Okay? Because well, there were problems in Red Sea crisis. There were problems in sea lanes of communication, shipping lanes. They were being attacked by Houthis and all. Now that threat has subsided. So India's exports grew because of this also. Then we all know depreciated rupee is good for exports. And rupee has considerably depreciated, right? This has helped exporters. Plus, India was on the receiving end of Donald Trump's tariffs. That doesn't stop us from selling to other markets like Europe, China, and many other countries. So we diversified. Okay, we diversified to Europe. Pharma exports increased, electronics, seafood, many things increased. All right. This good news from the month of November is short-lived. Analysts are saying that this export growth is transient, is short-lived, and it will quickly come down in a couple of months. Why? There are a few concerns. Growth appears transient without a US-India trade deal, and this trade deal doesn't appear to happen, though negotiations are going on, but it's not happening right now. Now the thing is, if this trade deal doesn't come around, then these orders that Indian exporters were getting from USA, this will come down. And rival countries who sell similar products, they will gain the lion's share at the cost of India's demise. So this is a problem. Engineering exports to Europe may also face CBAM duties. Even European Union is applying tariffs on India, but European Union is calling these tariffs as carbon-based adjustment mechanism, CBAM. Basically, they are taxing India because Indian products, Indian factories are not following greenhouse gas emission reduction guidelines. So this will happen soon. Long-term competitiveness hinges on negotiations and geopolitical stability like Gaza ceasefire, the Red Sea risk. Let's see what happens in future, but this growth will be short-lived. Clear? And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you're consistent and regular with this lecture series, and you do not forget to revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. So in the hope that you'll do that, I shall see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.